Hello, friends. Welcome back to This Leader. I was meeting with a colleague the other day. We were having coffee, and she told me this story that I just have to share with you. This happened to her. So imagine that you show up for work on a Tuesday morning, normal Tuesday. You got your coffee, you got your list, you got your things to do, you're ready for the day. You open up Slack to check in with your team. Something just feels off, right? You notice colleagues' names are going gray and they start disappearing from your contact list one by one. And you think, wait, is this a glitch? You refresh, you try again, and then it hits you. It's not a glitch. Their accounts are being deactivated in real time, right in front of you. And then your own access drops, your laptop locks, your email stops working, your badge doesn't get you through the door. And that's it. No call, no meeting, no warning, locked out. Well, until you get marched over to human resources. So this is what happened at a company that was recently acquired. Parent company made a decision and an entire organization was let go in the time it takes to drink your coffee. No heads up, no conversation, no dignity. So I want to be clear. This is not what any of my clients are doing, not even close. The leaders I work with, those who are experiencing difficult times, and some are being incredibly thoughtful and transparent right now. They're involving their people. They're communicating carefully. They're doing the hard human work of leading through contraction with integrity. But I told you that story because it does happen. And it's what people are afraid of, even if you'd never do it that way. So if you are in a time of organizational contraction, that fear may be alive and well in your organization right now. And as a leader, you need to know it, you need to name it, and you need to work with it. And that is what today's episode is all about. So let's be honest about the moment we're in. Many organizations and industry sectors, entire sectors, right, are like including the public sector, nonprofits, many nonprofits, not all, are experiencing a contraction right now. Funding sources that have been, reliable for years are slowing down or they're drying up or they're disappearing. The economy is a real mixed bag. Costs are rising. AI is impacting people's jobs at every layer of organization. And industries that have been in growth mode for years are now experiencing a downturn. In fact, a 2025 Harris poll found 55% of Americans were worried about losing their jobs. And this is real. The fear is rational. And whether or not your organization is in the middle of a contraction right now, the anxiety might be in the room. And here's the thing. Leading in times of expansion, well, that has its own challenges. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't. When you're in growth mode, I've known organizations that have grown, say, 25 to 50% year over year after year, right? Even if it's not that extreme. Your organization is trying to take advantage of opportunities and your job as a leader, God, you got to get people to work harder, to work faster, to hit the next milestone. That has its own set of challenges. It takes real leadership. But it feels really different, right? Because the tide is rising and even the hard conversations are happening against a backdrop of basic momentum. There's possibility in the air, right? Contraction, that's a whole different animal. Now you're asking people to give you their best, their best problem solving, their most creative thinking, their full engagement. And underneath it all, they're quietly wondering, okay, great, am I just solving my way out of a job? That is the knot we're going to untangle today. Let's start with actually, what's happening in the brains of your people, because understanding this will probably change the way you show up. When uncertainty hits, and contraction is nothing if not uncertain, the brain goes into threat detection mode. So David Rock, a neuroscientist whose work I've referenced probably several times now on this podcast, gives us a really useful framework for this. I really like this one. It's very memorable. It's called SCARF. And in times of organizational contraction, every single one of these threat responses gets activated, probably all at once. So SCARF, SCARF, the S stands for status. And that's where people wonder, wait, am I still valued here? Has my standing changed? Right? The C is for certainty. Obviously, that's threatened. What's actually happening? People are saying to themselves, is my job safe? Where's this headed? What does next month look like? All of that. Plus, they have all their own degrees of uncertainty at home, for example. Autonomy is the A. Do I have any say in what happens to me? Can I impact my future? Right? The R stands for relatedness. Like, can I trust the people around me? Are my relationships safe? Can I trust what leadership is telling us? And the F is for fairness. Questions like, are the decisions being made equitably? Is this being done right? All five of those simultaneously in every person in the organization. These things are activated in our brains. And here's what that looks like from where you're standing, right? People scan the environment for danger. They read every email twice. They analyze your tone. They analyze your emails. They notice who got invited to what. They track the silences, like the things that you're not saying. You might not even know you're not saying them, but other people do. And then they fill in those silences with their worst case assumptions. Because the brain, when it's afraid, it doesn't wait for information. It makes it up. And it's usually not the most favorable story. So add to that past wounds that your people carry. If they've been through a layoff before with you or elsewhere, or they watched a parent go through a layoff, or they saw some company promise, you're safe and then break that promise, those wounds, they come right back. They still feel fresh. Because fear doesn't just live in the present, it carries a history with it. And one more thing, and this is really important, fear doesn't look the same in everyone. Some people pull back, some people get quiet, right? They become really hard to read, disengaged. Some people get more aggressive. They push, they question, they become combative. And some people actually speed up, working harder and longer and trying to prove their value through sheer output. You'll see all these responses on your team. They're all just faces of fear wearing different clothes. Okay? And then, of course, there's the rumor mill. Contraction in an organization, downsizing, budget constriction. This is rocket fuel for rumors. Because when the official information is scarce, people fill the gap with unofficial information. And unofficial information spreads fast and it gets worse with every telling, right? And none of this is about character flaws, my friends. This is human beings doing exactly what human beings do when they feel threatened. Your job, and this is the whole game, is to lead in this uncertain environment. So, what do you actually do? I want to give you 4 moves, and these aren't fluffy concepts. They're very specific things that I'm seeing ethical, effective leaders do right now in organizations that are navigating contraction with their culture intact. Okay? They're not easy, but they're important. Move number 1, anchor to your values. And my friends, do this work before you need it. Okay? If you're not experiencing contraction, yay. Good. Good news for you. Really double down on these 4 moves anyway. Okay? So, because in times of contraction, your values aren't just inspirational wall art. Okay? They are your decision filters. They're how you decide what you cut and what you protect, and how you treat people all along that rocky road. And here's the thing. If you're not in a period of contraction, okay, your values should be clear and be supporting your culture. If you don't have clear values, do the work now. Do the work now of clarifying your values and strengthening those pillars of your culture. Because when the hard times come, and they always do, your employees will already know what to expect from you. They'll know whether they can trust you to do the right thing. They'll have that bank account of trust. Okay, your values are your reputation. And your reputation as a leader is what determines whether people give you their best in the hardest moments or whether they're quietly updating their LinkedIn profiles. Okay, I've done other episodes on values and culture that go deeper on this, and we'll link to those in the show notes. But the short version of this, if your values are clear and you're really living them, then hard decisions are painful, but they're navigable. Okay. If your values are vague or inconsistent, then hard decisions can feel really arbitrary, and arbitrary can be terrifying. Okay, so move number two, I want you to establish your decision filters in addition to your values. Okay. So this is where we apply our values, really. It's one thing to say something like, oh, our people are our greatest asset. That's what we value. But it's another thing entirely to have an actual framework for how that principle shapes your hardest decisions. So let me give you a real example. I work with an organization that's really clear on its core purpose, and that is to serve its members. It's not a slogan, it's a filter, and it's a commitment, and it's a filter. Okay. So when it comes to evaluate hard decisions, like how to restructure or which changes to make, every decision runs through that filter. How will this change impact our members? Is this the right call? It doesn't make the decisions easy, but it makes them coherent. And coherence, like knowing that there's a real logic and integrity behind what's happening, that's one of the things that keeps trust alive and well, even when people are scared. So, what are your decision filters? Think about that. If you don't know, that's your homework. And yes, of course, if that's work that you need help with, I'd love to be there for you. I'll tell you more about how to reach me at the end of the episode. Okay. Let's talk about move three. Slow down, get thorough, and communicate with extraordinary care. Because I know in a crisis, a lot of times the instinct can be to speed up, to move fast, to make decisions, to get things done, because ripping off the Band-Aid can be somehow still painful, less painful than tearing it off real slowly. Okay. But here's what I've seen over and over. Leaders who rush their decision making in times of contraction often make worse decisions, and they break more trust along the way. I mean, let's be honest. Even top level leaders who have the most information about what might be coming and the greatest ability to impact the outcome are having their own fear response when the organization is in contraction mode. And when we're in fear, we are not making decisions with all of our faculties intact. You know this. We are simply not at our best when we are under stress. Our brains don't work as well. So we run the risk of moving fast and breaking trust. And broken trust in an organization is very hard to rebuild. I know organizations who experienced layoffs years and years ago. And those layoffs are still squarely in the minds of their employees. Even people who weren't even at the company at the time of the layoffs, because the stories about things like that become legends. All right. So slow down in your decision making a little bit, bring in your core leadership team. And I want that core team to be people that you have really strong trust with, people who can engage in the kind of real conflict that comes hand in hand with hard decisions. High trust relationships are not a nice to have when it comes to leading through hard things. I mean, I would say they're important. They're never just icing on the cake. They're a requirement. I mean, you need people around you who are going to tell you the truth, who are going to challenge your blind spots, and are going to hold the weight of the hard decisions with you. Okay? So bring those people in, go through good decision making, really subject every decision to your values and your decision filters. And then communicate with far more care and more consistency than you think you need. Okay? Think about how decisions get cascaded in most organizations, right? A decision is made at the top, it's handed to a manager to share, it's filtered through their own interpretation, it's colored by their anxiety, and it's delivered to employees who are already scanning the environment for danger. By the time information travels from the top to the bottom, it's barely recognizable, okay? You have to be thoughtful about how you build your communication cascades. Who hears what, when, and from whom. Really important stuff. What you say and what you don't say yet, okay? Be clear. And how you make sure the message that reaches your frontline employees is actually the message you intend to send. So here's a pro tip, okay? If you are a top level leader, engage in frequent all staff communication where the leadership message is clearly communicated in real time to all employees. And if you're a leader at the mid level, ask your C-suite leaders to share with you a written communication. Ask them for it. Manage up, ask for this, because then you know that you're communicating something and you're not going to get stuck in the middle. Okay? All right, move number 4, be patient. Be patient with people's fear responses. And this one is harder than it sounds because, again, when you're in the middle of a contraction, you do need people to move, to take action. You need decisions to be made. You need work to be done and problems to be solved. Okay? And here are your team members. They're pulling back. They're getting defensive. They're moving slowly. They're asking the same questions again and again. It's easy to get frustrated. It's tempting to just push harder. But I want you to remember what we talked about earlier. This is the brain in threat mode. This is fear wearing different clothes. The person who suddenly seems disengaged, probably terrified. The one who's pushing back on every decision, probably scared they have no control, trying to exert some control, right? The one who's working 12-hour days trying to do everything, probably running on adrenaline and anxiety. Patience isn't the same as permissiveness. You still need to get things done, of course, but patience means you're not reading fear as laziness or resistance as insubordination. It means you're factoring human biology into your leadership strategy. So important. The leaders who do this well, who can hold the urgency of the moment and the patience that people need, those are the leaders whose teams come out of contraction phases still intact, still trusting, still willing to give everything they've got. Here's the thing I want to leave you with today. Contraction and expansion in organizations are cycles. They always have been. The economy contracts and it expands. Organizations go through seasons. No matter how good things are right now, contraction or a slowing of growth will come. No matter how hard things are, expansion will follow at some point. The leaders who navigate contraction with the most integrity, who come out on the other side with their culture alive and their people's trust intact, they're not the ones that figured it out while they were under pressure. They're usually the ones who did the foundational work before they thought they needed it. Okay, they've clarified their values. They've built high trust relationship. They've established decision filters. They've practiced strong, coherent, and consistent cascading communication. And they've created cultures where people feel safe enough to tell the truth and stay engaged even when things are hard. So if you've already done that work, good. Use this episode as a reminder to reinforce and deepen it. But if that work is not done, if trust is fragile, if values are vague, if you're not sure how to make good, strong decisions, or you're not sure that your team would follow you through the hard times, do it now. Do the work now. Not when the crisis hits, but now. And as always, let me know if you need some help. You can always go to clairelaughlin.com and set up a free consultation with me. I love to talk to people about this. If we're not a fit, we're not a fit. It's perfectly fine. But we'll take a look at where you are, where you want to be, and what it would take to build the kind of leadership foundation that really holds its own in any season. Okay? That's it for today, my friend. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for doing this work. You are making the world a better place by creating healthy and high energy workplaces. Now, go lead the way.